Hi, my name is Peter. I'm a street photographer from northern Germany, Hamburg. For my living, I'm in finance and I needed a creative outlet, and at some point I decided street photography could be a good way to do it. Or in the beginning it was just photography, it became street photography later. Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I started I did more like landscape, cityscape stuff, and I wanted a name not connected to my real name. And I always liked the idea of being a nomad, you know, being on different places just for a short period of time, move on and move on. And that's why I had an Instagram name called Travel Nomad. And then I started to open up a street account, and I wanted to follow that logic with the nomad thing, and then I did Street Nomad. Now I kind of regret it to have not my real name, but I feel like when I talk to people, they all say, no, keep it, it's kind of like a brand or something. People know who Street Nomad might be, and that's why I don't switch back. I tried to slow shutter with him and pan a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, when I started doing photography, I was just happy to see a person with a hat, and now you try to get something, I don't know, a little bit different, because otherwise, I mean, shooting a hat with an 85 is at some point it becomes a bit boring. It's like with umbrellas. It's the same thing. I mean, I still do it when I'm in kind of like a creative block. I pull out an 85 and go out because it's very easy to get decent results with an 85. And but at some point you feel it's kind of boring. That's something I try to do when I'm in a different city, try to find characteristic things. And I mean, New York with the yellow caps, it helps always when you get them somewhere in the image to give the image a context. Yeah, I started in consultancy. I was a consultant for 10 years. So it was pretty demanding time, a lot of working hours. And at some point I didn't felt it anymore and I wanted to skip. And now I'm working with a former client from me. He's the CEO of a hospital chain. And I'm, let's say, his finance expert or something like this. I can work remote a lot. And he gives me all the freedom I need to follow a hobby like this, to go travel a lot. I mean, I have to do my work even when I'm here, sure, but he don't cares if I'm in Hamburg, anywhere else. And that's a pretty good thing. So yeah, it's the best of both worlds. I was always a big fan of New York. I went here for travels, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And I always took a ton of pictures with a normal, we hadn't a phone at that time, it was like a digital camera, the touristy ones. And I took a lot of photos because I always felt like I see things that are interesting. And when I came back home, I actually didn't feel what I was seeing when I'm at the location, when I looked at the images. That's why I started to learn photography a bit more about composition, about using depth, using framings, telling stories. And then I started to board my first rear camera, Olympus, at that time. And I did another New York trip with a friend. And I had the goal to do a photo book for myself, capturing New York like I feel it when I'm there. So going more for the little stories, the dynamics of the city. And today I'm still pretty happy with that project, actually. I was very lucky when I look at the settings today that a lot of those pictures turned out decent, and that what makes the whole thing started. Always try to look for little details like a handbag or nail, you know, colored nails, rings. And that's what I would love with the R. If you crop in, you have still enough megapixel to work with the images, because I use a lot the APS-C crop when I want to go close for detail. That's another issue when you shoot in Germany. The people are dressed completely all over the place, you know. They have always outdoor wear, red trousers with green jackets and stuff like that. It's ridiculous to take anything close to cinematic images because they're not that much interesting characters or well-dressed people like in London, in New York, in Paris. Germany is pretty strict when it comes to privacy laws. People hate their images to be taken, and even people you don't photograph, seeing you are photographing someone, are approaching you and yelling at you. I'm a very, let's say, I don't like to be in trouble. I don't like to discuss with people and explain what I'm doing if I'm not have to. So that's why I started to do more scale shots, more silhouette stuff, more back shots from people, to not get attracted, to not attract them. and to kind of like keep a physical and emotional distance between the subjects and me. And when I started traveling for photography after COVID, I realized you don't have to be like that when you're in different countries like London, like New York, like Asia, Porto, because people are much more open to what you're doing, or they don't even care, like New York or Tokyo. Or maybe they do care in Tokyo, but they won't never say anything. It's not their personality. So yeah, it's a big difference, and that's why I very hardly or rarely shoot close-ups or portraits. Sometimes I do, but not very often. I take a lot of inspiration from movies, old movies, a lot from the 80s, the 90s, like, I don't know, French Connection, Taxi Driver, Black Rain, Playing in Tokyo, or newer ones like, I don't know, Joker, Batman, stuff like that. When it comes to grading, to scene, to mood. When it comes to photographers, yeah, I mean, sure, Saul Leiter, Ernst Haas are definitely on my list. Alex Webb is great when it comes to layers, compositions. And when I talk about, let's say, more recent photographers on Instagram, definitely Billy is one of my inspirations. He ever was. Nick Miller is one of those. In the beginning, Munaris did a lot of stuff I really loved. And there are so many other accounts in Europe now. Adrian Vago. It's like, I don't know, I've got a small group with a huge impact on me, and then there's a really great group with little bits and pieces I try to incorporate. The first real camera in Olympus was back in 2017 to prepare myself for that New York trip I mentioned, and then I upgraded to another Olympus. And when I started shooting more at nighttime, low light, in rain, the Micro Four Thirds sensor incorporated in Olympus isn't good enough to hold up with these conditions. I hope so. Yeah, could work. Need to dehaze a little bit due to the window. Yeah. She was nicely framed by all the pillars. On a trip, I definitely go out all day. I mean, no matter what conditions are, or I don't know what time of day or whatever. It's not that easy to just go out in Hamburg and shoot reflections in windows and stuff like that because of the reaction of people I was talking about. So in Hamburg, I go out when the conditions are right, mostly when it's raining, snowing, foggy, and I know exactly what to do. But it's not like that I wander around in Hamburg and just say, come on, let's take some photos. But yeah, when I want a trip, I'm out all day long. When I see something interesting, I know what to shoot, but it's hard for me to create something interesting, you know? If I had to direct a model or a product and arrange it in a certain way, I don't know if I'm good at that actually. I'm good when I see, oh, this guy is interesting, or there's something interesting happening in a few seconds. I can set that up and shoot, but do it actively felt kind of weird to me. I always have spots I want to shoot, and then I go there, camp maybe for an hour or two for the right thing to happen. And the other half is just wandering around, trying to envision things or see things, interesting characters, stories, reflections, colors, whatever, and then just shoot, no matter if it ever ends up anywhere, or if it's just for me or from my archive or for the, you know, for the trash bin. Oh yeah, 24 is crazy. Normally I'm a very quick editor. I start just trying to put an edit I already did on an image and see if it works or not works. But then I often let it sit for a while and look if I really like it or not. Especially when I'm in a new city and I have to find a new editing style for that kind of city with the colors and lights. But New York, I mean, I've been here, I don't know, 3 or 4 times just for shooting, and I kind of feel like where I want the edits to go, and then I can do a quick edit too. But I love editing, and I love spending my time editing on the iPad and playing around with curves and stuff. For me, it's a fun part. It's not the job part. The funny thing is, I feel like I actually don't have a real unique style because I edit every image kind of like off the scratch. I try to, I don't know, copy an edit I already did on it, but then I play around and sometimes it's more greenish, sometimes it's more purplish. It's just like I feel it. But people always tell me my style kind of like is more or less similar over time. I don't see it like that because I feel like I'm always doing something different. That's why I don't get bored. I mean, in the beginning, social media was really a love relationship because I kind of felt like people starting to like my images, the following grows, and that kind of kept me motivated that I'm on the right track doing something that is not only to me meaningful, but maybe to other people too. And nowadays it's more like a love and hate relationship because I definitely don't want to jump on the video, TikTok, reel or whatever train, at least not for now, or not just to feed the beast. But I do need an outlet for what I'm doing, not for shooting, but for me it's, you know, my job isn't very creative and I need doing something with my images to get feedback, to get interaction, and that's why it's a hate relationship lately because I mean, even though my account is pretty big compared to others, the engagement is, yeah, it's completely down like everywhere on Instagram. I don't know, I don't need the likes actually, but I feel it's kind of pity that, I mean, I have 70k followers and only 2k of them see my images. And that's kind of weird, so yeah, love and hate. But I try to see Instagram more like a portfolio page for me. I post what I want to see in my portfolio. That's why mixed cities, mixed scales versus storytelling shots, sets versus single posts. Not because I think the algorithm might want that, just because I want my feed to look in a certain way. I reduce clarity and sharpening and put grain in because I love it to be more gritty. And that's the issue with the G Master lens, that they are so badass sharp. I really have to work hard to get that sharpness out. I don't shoot a lot in Hamburg anymore because I mentioned people are very aware of what you're doing, they don't like it. And I don't feel that much inspired to shoot there anymore. But I found a new area, it's kind of like the red light district with a lot of neon signs, and I try to find my way to shoot it without getting in conflict with people. And I was shooting a reflection in a closed store window, a reflection of a neon sign on the other side of the street. So no people in it, nothing. And this complete stranger approached me and said, what you are doing, you can't do that. This property belongs to anyone, you don't want that. I was, guy, what you're talking about? It's a public space, one of the most visited ones in Hamburg. What's your issue here? So yeah, maybe that was one of the issues. But I think I'm too shy when I'm shoot. I'm not in the face of people. Often I see a situation and I want to take my camera and then I see the guy seeing me already and then I won't do it anymore because, I don't know, I kind of feel like blocked now. I think I would say Tokyo, actually. I was thinking for a second because I like to shoot in London a lot, but London is pretty limited to me when it comes to spaces I like to shoot. And when it's the only city I had to shoot, it may be too limited. And Tokyo, I mean, I've been there once, but it's an amazing city with so much going on, characters, grittiness, well-dressed people, little stories, stuff like that. I think you can shoot there for an endless amount of time. I'm pretty sure if I've been in Hong Kong the first time, or have been in Hong Kong the first time, I might switch to Hong Kong. It's my feeling, but I haven't been there yet, so it's not fair to say that. Since I'm traveling a lot, I would pick a 50, because 50 is just the in-between for New York and Tokyo, where you can go wider and closer, and Europe, where you have to go a bit more far away from people, and you can do that with a 50. 35 would be hard in Europe for me, and an 85 would be hard in New York for me because it's too tight, so I would pick a 50. If I had to only pick one, I would definitely say rain, even though my relationship to rain changed a bit. I love the images I get out of rain, but I don't love shooting in the rain that much, because holding an umbrella is hard when you want to manually focus in some situation. I told you in the beginning, my eyes are getting worse and I'm short-sighted now, and when I switch between viewfinder and display, I have to set up glasses or not, which really is annoying when I shoot in the rain. But when I come back home and see the images on my iPad or something, I know why I did it. So for me, rain is still, it's where I come from. I love that cinematic stuff, I love that moody stuff, and you can get the closest to it in the rain. I shot a few times in Paris, but always in daytime because I went there with my wife, and then I only shoot a little bit when we walk around. That was the first time, beginning 2024, I went to Paris only for shooting, and I wanted to shoot that spot for ages. And I went there in the early morning, and I was very lucky that there was rain. The lights turned on, and that guy was just standing there holding an umbrella and smoking, and I took the image. While I was there, I wasn't quite sure if it was the scene I wanted, because normally I want a person walking through the frame and something like that. But when I saw it on screen, it's kind of like, for me, the perfect scene. It's straight out of a movie, at least from my understanding, and that's why I really kind of still like it. Yeah, Tokyo, as I mentioned before, I went there for the first time, and I was pretty sure I go there and shoot my typical scale stuff with isolated subjects and stuff like that. And then I came to a city with 35 million people or something, and I found out it will really be hard to do my normal stuff there. And I was kind of like a little bit frustrated because, yeah, I only had 3 or 4 days, and I started just shooting what I saw. And this was my first image I took in Tokyo, and I kind of was pretty happy, and it gave my style another direction to go more for layers, framings, and less scale shots. New York, I went here a few times, but I never had the conditions I always wanted to have in New York. Rain at night, real rain, not only just a few drizzles and an umbrella. And this time it was actually the first time I had the really bad conditions, really heavy rain, and it was so much fun to see the whole Times Square theater district area in such heavy rain, and it was so much fun to shoot and so much fun to edit the first 2 or 3 images, including this one. And it was kind of like, for me, like a dream come true, shoot New York in heavy conditions at night.